This is Mr. Anderson for Kellogg Community College, looking at solving rational equations in Section 4 of Chapter 6, Math 121 Intermediate Algebra. Okay, so what we're going to do today is solve for x. That's really what we're doing. We are going to solve for x. And we're going to use a general strategy, and the general strategy is to clear the denominator. And what we're going to do when we clear the denominator is kind of rewrite the problem without a denominator. Now the best way to clear the denominator is to multiply by the least common denominator. So when we look at a problem like number 1, we're going to look at what is the least common denominator of 3x and 6. And in that case, that least common denominator would be 6x. Now, because of the properties of algebra and having an equal sign here instead of just simplifying an equation, what we can do is we can multiply the entire expression, the left side and the right side, by the least common denominator. And what that would do is that would make sure that everything gets multiplied by a factor of 6x, 6x, and 6x. Now, since we've multiplied the left and right side by 6x, 6x gets everything 6x bigger. So what this will do, though, it'll let us kind of do some simplification and to change the problem to make stuff pretty useful for us. But at the beginning of the problem, we do have to talk about exclusions. So in this first problem, if I plug a 0 in for x, that would give us a division by 0 error. So that has to be one of our excluded answers. These become very important as the problem goes on. So now here's what we do, though. You'll notice that there is 6x in the numerator and 3 in the denominator. The 6 and the 3 divide to make a 2. Now here, in this problem, the 6x in the numerator and the x in the denominator, these can simplify, so it leaves me with 6. So the right side of the expression becomes 2x times 2, which is 4x, minus the 1 in the 6, 1 times 6 makes minus 6. Now over here on the right hand side, the 6 and 6 simplify, which leaves me with 5x. Now I'm going to solve for x. By moving the 4 to the other side by subtracting 4x, I'm going to have negative 6 is equal to positive 1x, or just x. And using my symmetric property, I can rewrite my problem that x is equal to negative 6. Now this is where you check back at the danger number. Did your answer match one of the danger numbers? And since it didn't match the danger number, we're a-okay. So our answer for this problem, x is negative 6. And we can check for that by plugging that back into our equation. Is 2/3 minus 1 over negative 6, which is going to be plus 1/6, is 2/3 plus a sixth equal to 5/6. And we could show that that's true. So again, applying the formula, we're going to multiply by the lowest common denominator, and that will clear our denominator. So what is the lowest common denominator of x, 2x, and 5? The lowest common denominator of all of this is going to be 10x. So everything gets multiplied by 10x, 10x, 10x. Finally, one little thing about this, though, is that you're going to want to check to see what your excluded values is, and x is not going to be equal to 0 in this case, too. Plugging 0 into either of these is going to give me an undefined answer. Now here the x's simplify. 1 times 10 is 10. The x's simplify here, and the 2 and the 10 divide to make 5. 5 times 1 is 5. You'll notice there are no x's here. And then here, this 10 gets divided by 5, which makes 2. 1 times 2x, I know that's kind of written sloppy, 2x. 1 times 2x is just 2x. So here, I'm going to add these together. This makes 15 is equal to 2x, x, not 7. Divide those sides by 2, x is equal to 15 over 2, or 7.5. Or 7.5. But what you can see here is that if you plug that back into the equation, 1 over 7.5 plus 1 over 15 is going to be equal to 1/5 if you compute that problem out. Therefore, one of the things you should look at is that is your answer unless it matches your danger number. And since there was no conflict between the answer and the danger number, this is the answer to our problem. So we're just going to keep applying this formula over and over again until we get more and more complicated answers and include maybe some factoring knowledge about this. So let's look at problem 3. What's the common denominator between 15, 3x, and 5? Well, the common denominator of 15, 3x, and 5 is going to be 15x. So everything gets multiplied by 15x. So we're going to do some simplifying here. The 15 simplified, which leaves me with 12x. Here the x is simplified, and the 3 simplifies with the 15 to make 5. So this becomes 1 times 5, which is going to be minus 5 because of the negative in front. Then here we have the 5 divided with the 15, which makes 3. So as you see, all the denominators are gone. So 4 times 3, which is 12x. And then what we'll do is we will move the 12x to the other side right here. And there we go, minus 12x, minus 12x. And this gives us a problem though, because you'll notice that we have negative 5 is equal to 0. And when negative 5 is equal to 0, the problem then becomes we have no actual answer for this. So this is definitely no solution. So even though we could have found maybe a danger number where x could not be equal to 0, this problem doesn't have a solution, because the trouble with 12/5, if you divide 12 and 15, or the trouble with 12/15, if you divide 12 by 3 and you divide 15 by 3, what you get is the same thing as 4/5. And the only way you can have a fraction that makes, well, the way that this fraction is written, it has a 0 in the denominator. So we would have to input a impossible problem to make this work. So this is no solution to this problem. So looking at this here, what is the common denominator of nothing, x, and nothing? These denominators are actually not nothing, they're actually over 1. And so the common denominator of 1, x, and 1 is just x. So we're going to multiply this by x, and this by x. This is the only simplification that happens. So what you have here is x squared minus 14 is equal to 5x. So how would you solve an equation like this? You have an x and an x squared. Well, when you have an x squared and an x, you're going to have to move everything to the left-hand side, which gives you x squared minus 5x minus 14. And then you have to set this equal to 0, and then you have to factor. What are the two numbers that multiply to make negative 14 and add to make 5? That would be x minus 7 and x plus 2. This answer, you're going to have two answers for this problem, so I move these two equations here. So I got x minus 7 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. Solve for x is equal to positive 7, x is equal to negative 2. And that then gives me my two answers, unless by plugging in 2 and negative 2 and 7, that would give me a 0 in the denominator. Luckily, from the original problem, my only danger number is x cannot be equal to 0. So this problem actually has two answers. And we can check that out by going 7 minus 14 over 7 equals 5, which works. That's 7 minus 2 equals 5. And also x, or negative 2, minus 14 over negative 2. So what this is negative 2 plus 7 equals 5. So you can check your answers here. Okay, now, a lot of ways that people, well, first of all, let's look for in number 5, we can easily find our danger number. My danger number here is going to be positive 4. Now, some people have talked about doing crisscross multiplication, but what I prefer to do is I prefer to multiply by the least common denominator. And since you notice these denominators are exactly the same, what happens is that they just simplify, and so what I'm left with is x minus 2 equals 2. Moving the number to the other side, x is equal to 4. Now the problem with this is my answer matches the danger number. And if the answer matches the danger number, then there's no solution. So even though I could crisscross multiply here and solve it this way, or I could do it the way that I did it, you're still going to end up with no solution. This crisscross example is going to be more apparent when we look at a problem like number 6, where these are different. To clear the denominator, the lowest common denominator of this problem is x minus 2 and x plus 4. So if I multiply this side by x minus 2, x plus 4, and I multiply this side by x minus 2, x plus 4, we're going to have some simplification. This simplifies and this simplifies, which leaves me with x, or 3 times x plus 4, and this leaves me with 5 times x minus 2. Now for those of you talking about cross multiplication, you might have said, well, I'm doing the same thing with cross multiplying. But now you can actually see the algebra behind it. Cross multiplying is just another way of clearing the denominator. So let's go distribute. So this is 3x plus 12 is equal to 5x minus 10. Moving the 5x over here is negative 2x. Moving the 12 over here is negative 22. Dividing both sides by negative 2, x is equal to positive 11. But let's see if that was a danger number. From the original problem, if I plug 2 into this one, I'll get 0, so x cannot be equal to positive 2. And here, x, if I plug a negative 4 in, that would be another division of 0 error. So what's kind of nice about this is that you don't really have to worry about the danger numbers unless your answer happens to be one of those. So getting your danger numbers at the beginning or end of the problem is only important if you get an answer that is one of those excluded values. Again, checking your answer before I move on, 3 over 9 is the same thing as 5 over 15. So you can always check your answer by plugging the x back into the problem. We're going to do these two problems and call it an end to this part of the video. So let's go and see what we have to do here. I will kind of move this here so I have a little bit more room to write. Okay, so again, cross multipliers are going to take issue with me, but I like to clear the denominator, so I'm going to multiply both sides by x minus 7, x plus 3, which shows what the cross multipliers are actually doing. So the x plus 3 simplify, the x minus 7 simplify, so now I have 4 times the quantity of x plus 3 is equal to negative 2x times the quantity of x minus 7. Now, since we have a negative 2 here, that's going to make things a little interesting when we start to distribute. 4x plus 12 is equal to negative 2x squared plus 14x. Now watch, when I move everything to the left-hand side, because I have an x and an x squared, I get 2x squared, and I'm moving the 14 over here, so that gives me a negative 10x plus 12 equals 0. And now I need to factor this. What's the first rule of factoring? The first rule of factoring is look for common terms. So we're going to pull out a 2. And so now I have x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Now I can easily find two numbers to multiply to make 6 and add to make negative 1. That is going to be x minus 2 and x minus 3. So remember, the 2 out in front doesn't actually affect our answer. So we got x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So my answer is either going to be 2 or my answer is either going to be 3. Now I'd be okay writing those two answers down, but I want to go back up to the top of my problems and see, just in case I have a problem with this. So x minus 7, well, that means one of my danger numbers is going to be positive 7. X plus 3, that means my danger number is negative 3. So it looks like my two answers down here are going to be fine because they didn't match the 7 or the negative 3 from up above. So you can probably plug these answers back in and get your answers, or check your work there. I strongly suggest you do that. Okay, you'll notice that we have made a little edit in the video, and there needs to be a fix in problem number 8 where this needs to be a plus. The reason why is because when we look at the factored form of this, which is two numbers to multiply to make -8 and add to make 2, this is going to be x minus 4 and then x plus 4, excuse me, and x minus 2. So what this means is that I'm going to clear the denominator by multiplying everything by x plus 4, x minus 2, x plus 4, x minus 2, and then finally x plus 4, x minus 2. Now what this means for the number on the left, or the variable on the left here, all these simplify and leaves me with 8. This here, I'm going to divide both sides by x minus 2, which gives me 2x plus 8. I multiply the 2 times this. And then I'm going to divide this out here. This is my x plus 4, which leaves me with plus 1 times x minus 2. Now, here's what's so nice about this is that I can actually just solve for x. X is equal to 2x and x makes 3x. 8 minus 2, that leaves me with positive 6. Move the 3 to the other side, so negative 3x from both sides. So negative 2x is equal to 6. Looks like my answer is going to be negative 3, as long as that wasn't a danger number in the problem. It looks like from my problem here, my danger numbers are going to be positive 2, and it's going to be negative 4. So that is going to be my answer here, as I plug that back into the problem and check my work for it. So thank you very much for watching the videos, and again, if you have any questions, let me know, and stay tuned for part 2.